Hello, everyone, and welcome to Rocky Top Review presented by CHI Memorial. We're on Mix 104.1 and we're on MixTV.tv. Thanks to a Thursday night season opener, Tennessee was able to get a jump start on preparing for a big road test today when, as the Volunteers head north to take on number 16 Pittsburgh and try to get revenge for the 41-34 loss in the second edition of the Johnny Majors Classic. And that's the way we open it up. I'm joined, as always, by Steven Shelton, by Reverend Jason Cox, and by the commish himself, Josh Rogers. Guys, first of all, I guess good afternoon. How are you?
Good. Anytime we come off a season opening win, going into Pitt is a good week. This is just a big week for us.
I didn't hear you say great season opening win.
I don't think it was great.
Much like your first commission meeting, from what I understand.
Well, here we go.
Pass. That's all I kept hearing last night. Pass. Anyway, whatever. Shelton, I want to get a little serious here.
Yeah.
Tennessee goes to Pittsburgh. You guys have all been talking about this game going in.
Yeah, I think this is, when you look at this game in Florida, I think these are the two that's going to separate Tennessee from having a great season and a mediocre season. This is a must-win, and I hate to say that in week 2, but it's a must-win. We can't drop this game again to Pitt. It's a lot of history between these two schools, linked all with Johnny Majors, of course. But I just thought that Tennessee offensively came out, was very, very vanilla last week against Ball State. Defense did not tackle well. Again, I know they don't try to show a lot of things, but you don't have to show a lot of things and tackle. And so that was the kind of the disappointing part of that. Ball State ended up with 4.9 yards per offensive play, and that's unacceptable. It's just unacceptable when you're talking about an SEC school like Tennessee that's supposed to be a lot better defensively. They really didn't show it last Thursday night.
As we recap the Ball State game, Jason, what stuck out to you?
Well, I don't think we learned much about Tennessee. I mean, they took care of business. They did what they were supposed to do. But I don't think I know any more about this Tennessee team than what I did a week ago today. We're going to know more after Pittsburgh, and I guess we'll get to Pittsburgh and talk more about that in a minute. But I think Tennessee did what they needed to. They were very vanilla. They played passionless after probably the second quarter or so. I understand that. But Ball State, they're back-to-back bowl seasons coming into that game. Again, they were a quality opponent. Tennessee put it to them. I mean, 14-0, 2 minutes into the game. Is that about right?
Yep.
But again, they did what they were supposed to. I don't know if we're any better or any less than we were last year, but we're going to know that real soon.
Josh, what about it?
Yeah, so Tennessee, I mean, for all intents and purposes, played a pretty decent game against Ball State for their first opening game of the year. The issue that I have is kind of the same issue that Shelton has is really with Tennessee's defense. 269 pass yards given up, 74 rush yards. Now, 74 rush yards, last week we talked about how great their running back was for Ball State, how experienced their offensive line was. And so the front 8 for Tennessee is actually, they showed a lot of strength. They showed a lot of heart, and they played really great ball. My issue is with the secondary and the safeties and the corners and really giving up too many yards passing. The other issue for Tennessee is that you better hope that Hendon Hooker doesn't get hurt, because Hendon Hooker is one of the most legit quarterbacks in the NCAA this year. Behind him, Joe Milton, this Tennessee offense, I think, honestly would unravel. I don't think there's a person – I mean – maybe Dale Murphy might be able to catch a ball from Joe Milton, but that's about the only person in the world who could catch a fastball from Joe Milton. And that's a problem for Tennessee going forward, because he will play in some games, and he has to learn to control, and that's really why he lost his start last year. But going forward for this Tennessee offense, it's really going to be about those receivers and how far Hendon Hooker can take this team this year.
First of all, it's not maybe Dale Murphy can do anything. He's the greatest player of all time. But besides the point, in any sport that he's ever played. Milton missed missed wide open tight end in the end zone. He has no touch. Now, if you want to go out patterns, Milton's great. He throws it right on the dime. You can't ask for anything more than what he does. Athletic, but he's right. Hendon Hooker is really the spark plug of this offense. When you start looking at the way he spread the ball around, Cedric Tillman had 6 catches. Jimmy Holiday had 4. Keaton had 4. Brew McCoy had 3. Each one of these guys, we didn't have one receiver that was under 10 yards per catch. That's strong. Running the ball. I tell you, I thought Jalen Wright, Jason Cox, come in and, man, he runs hard.
He does run hard. He's a young guy. He's a sophomore this year, and he's fast. Coming out of high school, he was lightning bolt fast. He's put on some weight. All the running backs that are coming back have put on weight. They're calling it their body armor. They're putting on weight up there, but they're not losing speed. So the running backs really performed well. I think Jabari Small, and we'll get to Pitt again, but I think he's going to have a coming out party this week against Pittsburgh, and I look forward to that. They've been raving about him in Knoxville throughout the preseason. So. I look forward to these young guys continuing to develop at the running back position because, everybody says, man, Heupel throws the ball. It's an air raid offense, but it is very, very balanced. I mean, they were showing the stat last week on the TV. I mean, it's almost 50% pass, 50% run. So Tennessee's got to be able to run the ball to do what they want to do in the air.
And here's the thing with Ball State and Tennessee game. Really, it wasn't really that great of a test to really see how Tennessee's offense this year will perform against the Georgias, the Kentuckys, the Floridas, and that. But Tennessee's offense is probably one of the fastest offenses that we've seen in years. I mean, they look like the Oregon of old. How fast. I mean, I just remember watching Oregon years ago, and they were so fast and they moved with such speed. And that is what Tennessee's doing now in the SEC. I just don't know the longevity of how far you can keep that up for an entire season without going back and reverting back to some pro-style offense. But for Tennessee, they get that really good test this week against Pitt, and we'll be able to see how that offense stacks up to actually a legit defense when it comes to Pitt.
Oregon used to make me, when I saw them want a Mountain Dew, was really what I wanted when I'd look at the Oregon uniforms.
Which one?
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. That's just the yellow and the green.
I watched Oregon last week. Didn't want to make me have a Mountain Dew, but
made you want to have another championship, I think.
I think so too.
You were there in Atlanta, Josh, last Saturday.
Yeah, unbelievable game. Georgia is honestly second to none when it comes to their offense and their defense this year. I think that you look at the teams that are around the country from the big games that we watched last week, Notre Dame, Ohio State, Alabama had a cakewalk test. Game last week. Georgia is better than they were last year, and it's going to be a powerful season for the Dogs.
Yeah,
go ahead.
If Oregon's truly the number 11th team in the country at the end of the year, Georgia may be the greatest football team we've ever seen because they absolutely demolished Oregon in every facet of the game.
All right. Well, let's take a break right here. Coming up, we're going to preview today's game with Pittsburgh. It's Rocky Top Review, Mix 1041, MixTV.tv, presented by CHI Memorial. Welcome back, everyone. It's Rocky Top Review, presented by CHI Memorial on Mix 1041 and MixTV.tv. We're counting down to kickoff, Tennessee at Pittsburgh. And Shelton, as I said earlier, a lot of UT fans have been pointing to today's game.
Yeah, I mean, it is. This is really, you win this game, you're 3-0 going into Florida. Now, Florida in the preseason wasn't supposed to be very good. The Florida that I saw Saturday night looked pretty good. They weren't terrible defensively. Offensively, Richardson is a man amongst boys out there right now, and so that Florida is much improved. I think offensively, again, question still defensively, but this Pitt team, you look at last year, I think everyone will agree. If Hendon Hooker starts the season as the starting quarterback, we win this game last year. He didn't, but he has this year. Kenny Pickett is gone. He first round draft pick to the Steelers. He was, Pitt went on to win the ACC. This wasn't a bad loss by the Tennessee team, but this year Tennessee goes in as a 5-point favorite. I just think that Tennessee needs this victory to give them the confidence going into that Florida game. And if you're 3-0 hosting Florida, listen, that stadium will be packed, and it'll be loud because maybe for the first time in a few years, we really believe there's a chance for us to win this game at home.
Wow. I tell you, Jason, look, UT at Pittsburgh. What do you make of it?
First of all, I love this game. I could see this becoming a non-SEC rivalry, maybe something we play twice each decade or whatever, just with the Johnny Majors history. I remember we did this show last year, and we did lots of Johnny Majors stuff, and it was real cool. Growing up in the 80s. And knowing Johnny. So I love this game and what it means, and hope to see it again in the future. For Tennessee, we've got – I'll tell you something to keep an eye on is, can we get to the quarterback? Their quarterback's out of transfer from USC. What is his name? Caden Slavich. I may have butchered that name, but he's got some talent. Last week against Ball State, it was 3 drops and the ball came out. So our guys just didn't have any time to get to the ball. It was hitch routes, it was crossing routes all day long. Pittsburgh's going to try to push the ball down the field. They're going to try to throw it down the field, which may give our defensive ends, defensive tackles a chance to get home. They're going to have to. Okay, we're going to need to sack the quarterback 2 to 3 times. We're going to need to put pressure on him all day long, and if we can't, then my fear is that this will be a repeat of the Purdue game in the bowl game last year. It would be a high-scoring affair that in the end we just can't keep up because we can't tackle anybody. But if we can get to the quarterback, I think we can cause some real problems for Pittsburgh. Our offense is going to score, and so I think it's going to be a fun game. I think it's going to be a close game, and I look forward to it.
Josh, UT at Pitt today.
Yeah, I think the big thing is you are right. The offense will score, but I think one of the big things for this game is going to be time of possession. When it came to the game last week, the backyard brawl, Pitt between West Virginia, Pitt ate up the clock the entire second half. I mean, they can run the ball. They've got great running backs. They had 384 total yards against a West Virginia team. That was no slouch. I mean, that last week was almost a home game for West Virginia and Pittsburgh. They actually had West Virginia fans were buying season tickets to Pitt just for this game, and now they're selling all the tickets to the other team. So for Tennessee, I think this is a big week for them to travel as well for the fans. I think that there's going to be a lot of Tennessee fans in Pittsburgh. I think that for Pitt, though, for this game, with Pitt playing West Virginia last week, they had a tougher test week 1, and I think that speaks volumes for their team. I think Tennessee coming in, they have to travel to Pittsburgh. The loss of Kenny Pickett last year for Pitt is huge. I mean, that's undeniable. I mean, he's going to go to be probably a starter in the NFL, maybe not like a long-term guy, but he was a great quarterback for them. Going forward, I think this week Tennessee really has to control the ball. They have to be able to score quickly, score often, but it really comes down to that defense and how well they can make adjustments from last week against Ball State to go against these big Pitt receivers this week.
I compared it to the Purdue game last year. Maybe the better, if you say they really want to slow it down, maybe the better comparison is the Kentucky game last year, where Kentucky just tried to let the air out of the ball, to use a basketball phrase, and just keep the ball away from Hendon Hooker and those guys. Maybe that's what it turns out to be. I think Tennessee's going to be efficient on offense. We're probably not going to win the time of possession game, but I could see Pitt trying to just play keep away from us and keep the scoring low.
Shelton, what does UT need to do?
Well, they're going to have to get to the backfield. Pitt's going to line up with 2 tight ends. They're going to line up in an I formation sometimes. They're going to go heavy packages. They're not going to do anything real fancy on the offensive side of the ball. They're not going to be shock you very much with trick plays. They're going to try to run it down your throat. They're going to try to get the ball to the receivers on the outside. I just think that Tennessee, Jeremy Banks has to play a great game. Mm-hmm. He has to clog that middle. If not, they're going to run on us all day. Going back to what Josh said, Tennessee fans won't travel to this game because Tennessee turned down all the tickets. They gave us 400 tickets in the 500 level. Now, we gave them 2,200 tickets in the lower bowl behind their bench last year in the lower corner. If you look right behind you, you'll see blue when Florida's there. Same tickets, gave them 2,200 seats in the lower bowl. All that Pitt offered us in the old Heinz Field is 400 tickets in the 500 section. The athletic department turned down every ticket.
Wow.
They gave them enough room in the lower section for the band. Everybody else is on the very, very top level. Now, imagine, Tennessee has 2 levels. Heinz Field has 5 levels. Gave
Wow.
400 tickets in the upper day. So Tennessee's been buying tickets off StubHub. Tennessee will not have a section of people like you normally do on road games. So Pitt has really kind of ruffled the feathers already of the UT athletic department with this move. For whatever reason, they've decided to do this. But Tennessee again, yeah, I mean it is. I think Tennessee. Jason watched the West Virginia Pitt game. I watched the West Virginia Pitt game. Tennessee's got to look at one-on-one opportunities on the outside. Pitt does a very good job of tackling. However, it looked like when their DBs were one-on-one, they really could not stay with the West Virginia receivers. Now, I'm not saying anything negative about the West Virginia receivers, but Tennessee's receivers are better. They're faster, they're stronger, they're bigger. So I think Pitt is going to, Tennessee has to look, Hendon Hooker has to look for those one-on-one outside with no help over the top and getting the ball to our playmakers. But I really think that this is Small's breakout game. And I think Jason said this. I think look for some screen passes, look for opportunities for some screen passes and some play action. I really think if Tennessee establishes that, if they get the passing game going, Pitt's going to have to back off to some of that pressure that they were able to put on West Virginia. And when they do that, I think Small could run for 100 to 150 yards this game. And if he gets over 100, Tennessee wins this game.
Jason, what do you make?
Oh yeah, I agree. I think Jabari Small is going to have a field day. I believe Brew McCoy. I mean, I couldn't believe how big that dude was when I saw him wearing that number 15 jersey. Did you notice that, Shelton? Oh, yeah. That was kind of sweet for us Tennessee fans. There's been some really, really good number 15s out there. The most recent, Juwan Jennings out in San Francisco. So, man, I really think Brew McCoy is going to have a breakout game. I think they're going to play a lot of press man coverage, and he's going to knock defensive backs on their tail and run right by them. Cedric Tillman is a big old body guy too that can fly, our leading returning receiver. And so I look for the offense to push the ball down the field hard. And once Pitt bails on the run game, I think Jabari Small is going to absolutely run wild today. I mean, 150 yards, maybe more. I think it's his kind of game. And back to Jeremy Banks, this is a Jeremy Banks game.
It is.
Because they want to be physical. They want to be physical on offense. I heard something this past week. Pittsburgh announced their starting lineup last week with 6 offensive linemen.
Yep.
Okay, they want to be, they want to be tough. They want to be mean down there. It's a Jeremy Banks kind of game.
Yep.
Josh?
Yeah, I think that it all comes down to how Pitt's defense responds to this high-flying Tennessee offense. I think that if Pitt comes out and they really play a game like they did against West Virginia, try to slow down the game, slow the ball down, like Jason said, take the air out of the football, Tom Brady it a little bit, then they might actually have a chance to kind of slow down this Tennessee offense and keep themselves in the game. I truly believe, I agree with you guys. I think that Small will have a big game. I think that Brew McCoy and these other these guys will have big games, but I also think that Pitt will have a big game as well. I think that this game comes down to the fourth quarter, and it will come down to a game who has the ball last and who can score going down to the end of the game. And I think that really it's going to be a lot closer game than a lot of people think.
All right, stand by. We're going to come back with a final segment and get the picks of the guys on this edition of Rocky Top Review. It's presented by CHI Memorial. 2 things to remember. CHI Memorial Convenient Care is open 7 days a week. They're right there in the Public Shopping Center on Paula Parkway in Cleveland. And download the free Mix 1041 app. It's free thanks to CHI Memorial. You can listen or watch Mix 1041 or Mix TV on our Mix 1041 app. Download for free at mymix1041.com. We're counting down to a 3:30 kickoff today. Tennessee at Pittsburgh. Coming up, our final segment. This is Mix 1041. Back to Rocky Top Review presented by CHI Memorial, Mix 1041 and MixTV.tv. Time to make some picks, and the big non-conference game of this, really the second full weekend of the season, is in Texas. Number 1, Alabama at an unranked Texas. I want to begin with Josh Rogers because I noticed Steve Sarkisian's already lowering expectation that game actually is probably in progress. Start at noon.
Yeah, and I think that this can honestly be a really good game. Anytime you play football in Texas, I mean, the fans come out, the stadium's wild. I mean, anything really can happen. I think this gives kind of Texas's first really good look at what SEC football is going to be like for them. With this game, I think that it is closer than what people think, but I just think Alabama is too good of a team to go to Texas and lose.
John, what do you think?
Well, much like Brian Kelly, who is the first person to hit my hot seat in the 2022 season, he'll be the one who called Notre Dame at the end of the season. After this game, Texas will be calling the Big 12 back, asking if they could maybe get that Dear John letter back. Alabama goes down and wins by 3 touchdowns.
Whoa, Jason Cox.
Yeah, I don't think it's much of a game either. You give Nick Saban, time to prepare for a game like this, and he's been preparing. I don't have any doubt that he's been looking at this game, had this one circled for a while, and I just think Alabama's going to be way too much for Texas. And again, welcome to the SEC, Longhorns.
All right, South Carolina, they're another noon game, plays at number 18 Arkansas, and they got a big win in their first week. That's a noon game. It's over on ESPN at Fayetteville. Let's begin with Jason Cox.
Well, if you notice, Shane Beamer threw a little bit of shade at Tennessee last week when he came off the field after beating App State. No, it was Georgia State, excuse me. And he made a comment about how, not all SEC teams have the feeling they do right now when they play Georgia State. And so those Gamecocks, they're flying real high right now. They're real proud of themselves. They're real proud of their program. They're making fun little videos with their coaches and all that stuff. But this Arkansas team's tough. They're good, and they have to go to Fayetteville. I think Arkansas puts it on them. The Gamecocks come back down to earth a little bit. They get a taste of what they really are, and Arkansas rolls in this one.
What about it, Joshua?
Yeah, so South Carolina, Shane Beamer, legacy kind of coach there with his dad, Virginia Tech for forever, and a great coach, a great young coach for the SEC. Sam Pittman, Arkansas, former Georgia guy. Last week after the game, Sam Pittman was asked what he was going to do after this, and he said he was going to have a nice cold beer after the game. So I'm going with Sam Pittman and his cold beer after the game.
Oh, Shelton.
Well, Tennessee was known for years during the Butch Jones era for being the most hyped and overrated team in the SEC. Well, thanks to Coach Beamer, that's no longer the case. South Carolina is miserable. They're a good show, but all they're going to do is crow or whatever they do over there. I think Arkansas goes in easily. I think you saw last week when they beat Cincinnati, game that I thought Cincinnati was going to win. Arkansas is legit. South Carolina, they get to 6 wins this year. That'll be a great year for Coach Beamer.
Just build it brick by brick.
Yep.
Happy State, Appalachian State at number 6, Texas A&M. Boy, what a game they came out of with UNC. Shelton, they're going to play. They're playing also at 3:30 on ESPN2 at College Station.
I mean, when you've got Mac Brown dancing in the locker room with his team after they gave up 60+ to escape with a victory, listen, if Appy State had one player that could tackle, they win that game.
Absolutely.
They're good. Offensively, they're good. Now, going to Texas A&M is a little different than playing in Boone, North Carolina in front of your home crowd. I think they go down. I think they may hang with Texas A&M for a while, but I think the Aggies are just too good this year. Give me a Texas A&M by a touchdown.
Josh, what about it?
Well, don't forget, App State, they're giant killers, right? I mean, they beat Michigan years ago in that big game, and so for them to go to Texas A&M, have to fly out there and do all that as a young team from Boone that doesn't have a whole lot of money. I just don't think that they have enough players to compete with the $1 billion salary that Texas A&M has to be able to pay all their players to come and play at Texas A&M, because who in the world would want to go play there? And so Texas A&M wins because they have more money and more players because they get paid more than anyone else.
Are you talking about NIL?
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
Our man Dale Jones is back at App State now, coaching. I believe he's coaching.
He's defensive coordinator.
Defensive coordinator. Okay, and so hope the best for Dale, good Bradley boy, and so I hope that they can go put on a good show. I think they will. I think they'll go and challenge Texas A&M. But at the end of the day, there's so much talent on that Texas A&M roster. If Appy State can take it into the second half, maybe even into the fourth quarter as a close game. That's huge for them. But in the end, Texas A&M is just too much.
It's a top 25 matchup tonight. Number 21 Kentucky at number 15 Florida. That's a 7 o'clock game in Gainesville on ESPN. Commish, what about it?
Kentucky, because I don't pick Florida.
And Reverend.
Well, Shelton mentioned Anthony Richardson a while ago. I mean, he kind of looks like the second coming of Cam Newton. So we'll see. We'll know after this week. Kentucky's going to hit him in the mouth hard all game long. See if they can slow him down. If not, Florida may be tough this year. I'm going to pick Florida in this game only because Kentucky's got several guys that are either suspended or hurt coming into this game, one of which is their stud running back, and who knows when he'll be back. But so I'm going to take Florida in this game, and I'm keeping my eye on Anthony Richardson.
All right, Shelton.
Florida, as of late Thursday, did not have a running back for this game. All three running backs have been either suspended or unavailable. That could change by game time. I am a believer in the team from Gainesville at this point. I've watched that entire game. I'm not going to pick Kentucky, so I'm going to say the other team wins. I really think that this places them. I think it places them in a good position to compete for the East. If the way they played, again, is Utah that good? Who knows? We always talk about USC is good, they get smoked. Oregon's that good, they get smoked. Utah's great, they get smoked. So I really don't know if anybody west of the Mississippi is really that good to begin with.
So you're picking Florida?
But the team from Gainesville played really, really well.
What a shame
so I think
you are.
I really think that team from Gainesville beats Kentucky.
All right, it's a game we're looking forward to. Tennessee at Pittsburgh, or at Pitt. Tennessee comes in number 24, ranked in the top 25 poll. They're at the all-new Acrisure Stadium. I know it has a ring to it, doesn't it? It's a mortgage company out of Detroit. Anyway, and they did the rights deal by about 10 times the price that Hines was paying. 3:30 today here, Mix 104.1, presented by TVFCU. Jason Cox, will start with you.
I think over the last 15 years, when Tennessee has just been wandering through the wilderness, trying to figure out who they are, we got to where, we couldn't beat anybody that mattered. And now we kind of climbed our way back to where we're beating the South Carolinas and Kentuckys of the world, but we're not yet beating the Floridas and Pittsburghs of the world. This is a great opportunity for this program to take a step forward back to national prominence. So will it happen? I don't know. I'm going to pick Tennessee in a close one. I think it's going to be a shootout. If you're not a fan of either team, it'll be entertaining. And but I think Tennessee wins. Again, I think that Jabari Small has a breakout game. I think Brew McCoy, we know his name very, very well after this game. I think a guy named Kamal Haddon, he intercepted the first pass of the game this past week. I think he makes a name for himself.
About less than a minute.
Side.
Josh Rogers.
Yeah, I think that this game comes down to two things: time of possession and how long Pittsburgh can keep the ball away from Tennessee's offense. I think Pittsburgh does a good job at that, and I don't think Tennessee scores enough points early to keep up with Pittsburgh at the end, and I take Pittsburgh by 2 points, like a field goal just to end the game to win it. Very close.
Shelton.
Tennessee 45, Pitt 24, biggest win of Heupel's career.
And that is it. It's Rocky Top Review, Mix 104.1 and MixTV.tv. We're getting set to join the Ball Network. The Big Orange Countdown is next on Mix 104.1.